Hello, welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 2 of the series. In this video, I wanted to talk about how I write and record guitar solos and specifically how I worked on the solo for a new single of mine. I've actually had this song laying around for quite a while, and I even posted some shorts a few months ago of different riffs and different sections from the song. I ended up recording probably about 2/3 of it, but then it kind of just fell to the wayside. I never ended up finishing it until recently. I actually recorded pretty much everything except the solo. So all that's left to do now is just write and record that. So the song is called Madness, and it'll be just a one-off instrumental single that I'll be releasing. It's coming out January 31st. The pre-save link for Spotify is in the description down below. If you like what you hear in this video, consider giving it a pre-save. That'll help out the song a lot when it comes out, and that would be much appreciated. But without any further ado, let's jump into the video. Nowadays, whenever I'm writing a solo, I'll pretty much always do a sort of piece-by-piece approach, where instead of trying to sit down and just think of an entire solo front to back, I'll instead just record it sort of section by section. And that's not necessarily like bar by bar or something like that. It's really just whatever sort of chunk of the solo I can think of at a time. So I usually start from the beginning and just play something, and once I sort of run out of ideas and run out of something that I've kind of memorized and concretely committed to, then I'll record that, get it saved so I don't forget it, and then I'll just keep going from there instead of always starting from the beginning of the solo section. And then I'll pretty much just repeat that process, but continue to build out the solo until I reach the end. And then once I have all these different pieces recorded, I'll go back and re-record one entire take of the whole solo, which doesn't necessarily need to be perfect or anything. It's more just so I can hear what the solo sounds like as one cohesive take. If I'm happy with how that one cohesive take sounds, then I'll move on to actually recording the final take. When it comes to recording solos for me, for pretty much anything, I try and focus on getting just a really good take, pretty much the best take I possibly can. But at the same time, chasing the perfect take isn't really the best use of time. So pretty much if I get a take that's 98% of the way to perfect, and maybe there's just a couple of things that stand out as not being totally perfect, I'll either comp those things out from different takes that maybe sounded better in that specific note or specific part, or I'll just do some really minor editing, like a timing correction to fix things up. But really, I think the key thing is just having a take that's already 98% of the way there, if not already just perfect, and then, if needed, just tightening things up slightly. So I talked a bit about the sort of technical aspect of how I'll write a solo, but in terms of the actual writing itself, there are a few things I try and keep in mind. I mean, there's no way to really distill it down to a process, but there are some things I definitely keep in mind. I think in general, I do prefer melodic solos over super shreddy ones. I think it's just nice to have something more memorable, and melodies tend to be more memorable in my opinion. Another thing I try and keep in mind is the actual song I'm soloing over. So is there maybe a motif I can make use of? Is there some recurring melody that I can call back to in the solo? Those can be things that also make the solo work much better for the song. The motif doesn't necessarily need to be a melody. It can even be something more abstract or conceptual, which ties in kind of nicely into my next point, which is what I want the solo for Madness to be. Throughout the song, the verses and pre-choruses feel a lot more chaotic than the choruses, which are kind of powerful, feel maybe like moments of clarity, this was something I was keeping in mind when I was writing the solo. I wanted to see if I could have that same type of contrast play out in some way in the solo itself. And I ended up basically making the first half of the solo the chaotic part, sort of to match the vibe of some parts of the song. And this part's a lot more dissonant. There's notes that are not in the key. It just sounds a lot more sinister, I guess. And then the second half is a lot more melodic. And in terms of motifs, I took some of the same melodies from other parts of the song and reused them in the solo. And then there's also a sort of transition in the middle. It's kind of got a filter effect on it, and that's sort of acted as the transition between the chaotic part and the melodic part of the solo. In terms of motifs and conceptually, I was thinking of this transition kind of as maybe, someone is having sort of chaotic thoughts, things are pretty turbulent, but you have a moment of clarity and you sort of snap out of it and suddenly things are really clear. And you're thinking very clearly, and that's sort of what the second half of the solo is after that transition. But with all that said, here's the final take I recorded for the solo in Madness. Enjoy. All right, and that's the solo. If you liked it or hated it, let me know in the comments. And just one more reminder that the song will be coming out on January 31st. I'll be posting more about it leading up to the date. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.